Hello and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be starting part 2 of my Back to Hogwarts / Shaketember Readathon vlog. Try saying that 10 times fast. That was not easy. So originally I was going to film one vlog that covered the first month of September because we had the week off from homeschooling, and then I was going to film a vlog that covered the last 3 weeks of the month. Unfortunately, the footage for the first week ended up being terrible, so I scrapped it. But I did decide as I was working on part 1 that it didn't make sense to have 3 full weeks of footage in one video. Like, that just feels like it's going to be a really long vlog. So I decided to divide it into 2 parts, and now you're getting part 2. So let's just talk about what I'm working on and what it's going to count for eventually. So the main book that I've been working on, and I talk about this one more in part 1 because I have already started it, and that is the Aeneid by Virgil. And currently I'm almost 3/4 of the way through. I've read books 1 through 8. I still need to read book 9 this week. I'm buddy reading this with Deea from Novel Idea, and we are reading 3 books a week, so I still need to get book 9 read before the end of the week. Today is Friday, just to clarify that. So today or tomorrow I need to read book 9, but I am really enjoying it so far. I think for the most part we're going to be getting into battle sequences at this point, which I'm really looking forward to. Those, I know in the Iliad, that was the part that I really enjoyed. So, or it was one of the parts I really enjoyed. So, hoping I do in here too, but we will see. So that is the first book I'm working on. And then I'm also working on Vera Wong's Unsolicited Advice for Murderers by Jesse Q. Satanto. This one I've only read the first chapter so far, so I have a long way to go. I forgot to say, the Aeneid is going to count for the 7th prompt in the Back to Hogwarts Readathon, which is a book with a battle. It's going to take a little while for me to get it done, but once I do, it will count for that. And then Vera Wong's Unsolicited Advice for Murderers is my in real life book club pick for September, and it will also count for the 2nd prompt, which is to read a book with a secret in the title or in the story, excuse me. And since it's a murder mystery, guaranteed there are going to be secrets in this book, so it's counting for that. And I forgot to grab the 3rd book that I'm going to be starting, hopefully starting soon, because I just finished Words of Radiance last night. I finally have that book done, and I usually have about 3 books going at a time. I want to get to the Taming of the Shrew. That's my book for Shaketember, and I want to make sure I get it on here since this is supposed to be a Back to Hogwarts and Shaketember vlog. And I didn't read any Shakespeare books in part 1, so I need to get to it in part 2. Those are my plans thus far. When I get those books done, I'll let you know what I'm going to be working on after that. So I will give you an update whenever I make some progress. Okay, so what is this induction? I did not know about this going into this play. I've never seen this in one of Shakespeare's plays before. I was not expecting this. But apparently that's literally what it's called, is an induction. I don't know why it's not called an introduction, but here we are. So if you haven't read this play before, there is a scene before the play starts in which we get a story with characters that we never see again. Apparently this was some sort of framing device because it ends with the characters are going to be watching a play, and apparently that play is The Taming of the Shrew. I'm all sorts of confused right now. But yeah, just wanted to warn you if you ever go to read this. I did some research because I was like, are they watching The Taming of the Shrew? Yes, they are. Are we going to see them again? Absolutely not. But apparently somebody else did write a version of this play in which we do come back to those characters. And I don't know if I'm going to look for that or not. We will see. But I've at least made a little bit of reading progress, and now I have to actually find my spot. So I'm on page 31. I'm literally on Act 1, Scene 1. So So I haven't gotten any further than the induction, but I just had to come on here and comment on that. So it's been several days since I started this vlog, and I have yet to update you guys. So let's go ahead and do that before I get any further into these books. So to start with, I finished the Taming of the Shrew this morning. I was basically reading one act a day, so it took me about 5 days to finish it, which isn't too bad. I will say, this play is not what I expected at all. I knew the movie 10 Things I Hate About You was at least loosely based on this play, and I'm now going with very loosely. If you don't know what this play is about, it is about two sisters named Catherine and Bianca, and Bianca has a couple men who are wanting to marry her, but her father says she can't get married until her older sister gets married. Catherine is the older sister, and she is the shrew. She has a tongue. She is not afraid to tell people what she thinks. She is not afraid to verbally try to put people in their place. So Petruchio shows up, and he hears about Catherine, and he thinks, I want to marry this woman. I want to meet her. I want to marry her. So he does, and he then, in honestly very cruel ways, attempts to get rid of her shrewness. So, attempts to tame her, all of that. And because she is now married, Bianca can now marry. But aside from the two suitors that are already pursuing her, there is a new one who shows up named Lucentio, I think. All of a sudden I say that and I'm like, wow, I probably had that way wrong. No, that's probably right, Lucentio. He immediately wants to marry Bianca. Obviously, she already has two other suitors. He's new in town, but he wants to marry her. Honestly, I don't know how I feel about this play. Like, I get the whole point was Petruchio trying to tame Catherine, make her a more pleasant person, make her someone people want to be around. But okay, I'm going to get a little bit into spoilers here, so if you don't want to be spoiled for this play, I'll have an image up here and you can skip ahead until the image goes away. Or I will have timestamps down in the description below. Petruchio, it isn't just... the way things play out, it doesn't just turn into he wants to make her a more pleasant person. It's he wants her obedient to a fault. And, I mean, it gets to the point where he says the moon is shining in the sky. She argues back that that's not the moon, that's the sun. And because she's contradicting him, even though she's right, because she's contradicting him, he's like, all right, we're going to quit our journey. We're going to go home because you're not listening to me. But then she says, no, you're right. It's the moon in the sky. We can keep going with our journey. And he goes, what are you talking about? That's obviously the sun. And she goes, oh, no, you're right. It is the sun. And that's what it is the entire time. Whatever he says, she has to go along with it, no matter how ridiculous it is, no matter how much she would disagree with it. And I'm not okay with that. Again, I understand wanting to make her a more pleasant person, someone that people want to be around. But to the point that she has to 100% agree with you on everything. And she can't say, okay, I hear what you're saying, but here's some questions I have, or here's some concerns I have. It doesn't really feel like it's going to be open even to that. So it's almost like you took the problem that she had and took it way the other direction. I get what he was trying to do. I appreciate the concept of what he was trying to do. But I think he went too far, in my personal opinion. You can feel free to disagree with me in the comments and argue why the way he handled things was the correct way to do it, but I just feel like he took a good idea and took it too far. So then I have also been working on the Aeneid by Virgil, and currently I am through chapter 10. I'm planning to read chapter 11 today, and I should be done with the book by the end of the week. However, I realized in editing the first vlog that I said I would update you guys on what this story is about, and I never did. So I apologize. I don't know. I mean, I guess in a way I know why I forgot, because I've been talking to Deea about it, and so I think in my head it's like, I've already discussed what the book is about. I don't need to discuss it again. Not realizing that was to Deea, not to you guys, I think was probably the issue. So if you're not familiar with this story, it's the story of a man named Aeneid who lived in Troy during the Trojan War. And after Troy lost the war, he and some of his family and several other people from Troy left Troy and were supposed to be sailing to where Rome would be. And he is supposed to found the city of Rome, or at least settle in the vicinity of what will eventually become Rome. I think technically Romulus is the one who founds the city of Rome, but he's supposed to settle in an area that will become Rome. And so it's a little bit like the Iliad. Sorry, not the Iliad. It's a little bit like the Odyssey, where they set sail. Fate says, this is where you're going to settle. This is your destiny. And they're setting out to do that. But a lot of problems happen along the way. And honestly, all of this happens because Juno hates all of the Trojans, which is Hera in Greek mythology. She hated the Trojans. That's why we had the Trojan War to begin with. And even after the war is over and the Trojans have lost, she still wants to prevent Aeneas and all the other Trojans from fulfilling their destiny. Or if they do fulfill their destiny, she wants to make it as hard as possible. In the beginning of the story, they land in Carthage and they meet Dido, who is the queen of Carthage. And Aeneas tells them the story of what happened in Troy and how they ended up in Carthage to begin with. And then after they leave Carthage, we see all the things that they go through just trying to get to what is called Latium, which is where Rome will eventually be. I'm not going to talk about it much more than that just because it would be spoilery, but I am enjoying this one for the most part. There are some books I've enjoyed more than others, which is not surprising. And I should probably specify when I say that. This is divided up into 12 books. So when I say books, I mean books within this one. But I'm very much in the middle of all of the battle scenes right now, which is usually my favorite part to read. Though I will be honest and give you fair warning, there are a lot of gruesome and gory details in this book. So if that is not your thing, you may not want to read this. But otherwise, I am really enjoying it so far. And then I have also been working on Vera Wong's Unsolicited Advice for Murderers. Currently, I am on chapter 10, so I haven't made it too far into the book. I'm on page 77. But I am enjoying this one, although part of me kind of goes back and forth because I like Vera Wong as a character. I like the fact that she's like, you know, I'm an older Chinese woman. I've seen a lot of things. I know a lot of things, and I don't trust the police to do their job because they're not doing what I want them to do or what I think they should be doing. But part of me is like, you're immediately considering the police incompetent because they didn't do exactly what you wanted or what you expected at the crime scene. So, like, there could be more going on that you're just not seeing, but I'm hoping as the story goes on, if the police actually are incompetent, I hope that's actually shown on the page and not just Vera Wong's assumption. But if that's not the case, then I hope we see as well that, no, the police are actually competent and actually doing their job. So, one way or another, right now I kind of don't trust her assessment because it's just based on what she's seen on CSI shows and things like that is not what happened at her crime scene. However, I think for the moment I'm going to put this book on hold. Not because I'm not enjoying it. I am enjoying the book. However, this one is for the book club that I do with my brother and sister-in-law. So far, my sister-in-law has started the book, but I have no idea how far into it she is. And my brother hasn't started it at all yet. While there's 2 other book club books that I need to read, and people are reading those, and I really don't want them carrying over into October. So last night I started Cherry Pie or Die by C.C. James, and this is for the Comfy Cozy Book Club being hosted by Hannah from the Teacher's TBR. I got 3 chapters in and I stopped for the night because we had the murder happen, but it's in a haunted house and there was mention of ghost and maybe ghosts are somehow behind some things going on. And I went, if this is going to be a ghost story, I'm not going to read this. I don't do ghost stories. I don't do haunted houses. I just can't. But I asked on Discord if it continues to be a part of the story, and I was told it is brought up sometimes, but it's a very minor part. So I'm at least going to try to continue on with it and see if I can get along with it well enough. If it becomes a problem, I will DNF it, but if not, I will keep reading that one. And then the other book I still need to pick up is Up From Dust by Heather Kaufman. And honestly, at this point, I should finish the Aeneid by the end of the week. And then if I can finish Up From Dust, Vera Wong, and Cherry Pie or Die by the end of the month, I will be perfectly happy. Yes, there were other books I wanted to get to this month, but at this point, if I cannot be behind on book clubs, I will be very happy about that. So if you're not familiar with this book, if you missed my TBR video, Up From Dust is about Martha of Bethany, of Mary and Martha from the New Testament. And that's really about all I know, is it's about her life. I got this one earlier this year when it released and never got to it. But then Keisha picked it for her Revive Christian Book Club pick for September, and I decided, okay, I need to get to this one now. And I still haven't. So I am planning to start this later today. Just haven't gotten to it yet. So I think that covers all the reading from the last few days. Unfortunately, my reading's been very all over the place. It's been a little of this and a little of that. Not consistently any one thing, but I feel like that's how my reading normally goes. So I will try to have another update before I get through a whole bunch of stuff and a whole bunch of different books. But at this point, we are done with school for the day. And my kids have youth group at church tonight. So I'm going to try to get a few things done around the house and then get some more reading done before the kids leave for church. And I don't know what I'm going to work on while they're at church. I haven't figured that out yet. I might need to do some video editing, so we will see. And sorry, one other thing I forgot to mention, and I just realized it. The Taming of the Shrew. This was the one play I was hoping to get to for Shaketember, and I did finally get to it. However, I also realized while reading this that I think I can count this for the Harry Potter Readathon, because the prompt for the 4th book is to read a book with a competition. I don't remember what the other option is, but competition was one of them. And there are 3 people in this book competing for Bianca's hand. I know it's not the competition she had in mind, but I can guarantee at this point there's no other way I'm getting the 4th prompt completed. And it's still technically a competition. Or if you want to get technical, there's even a wager at the end of it, if you want to call that a competition. So I'm counting this for the 4th prompt in the Back to Hogwarts Readathon. And that should put my current count at 2 books done for the Back to Hogwarts Readathon. Hey guys, so I wanted to do a quick update on Up From Dust. I have made it through chapter 8 and I have some thoughts, but right now I have some music going for the kids, and this is like the one spot in the house where you really can't hear it on the camera. So we're going to do the update in here. So I think I've talked a little bit about this before, that it is the story of Martha from Bethany in the New Testament. And I know this is a fictionalized account of her life, because from what I can remember of the Bible, we only have maybe 3 or 4 stories where Mary, Martha, and or Lazarus are actually mentioned. So I know a lot of the things in here are very much taking creative license and giving us things about her life that we don't know if this is what her life was like or not. However, I will say this is the 3rd book, the 3rd biblical fiction book I have read that is from the perspective of someone from the Bible. The first one that I read was Iscariot by Tosca Lee. I will be honest, I really liked the book. While I know, again, creative license was taken with his life, I feel like that book was really exploring why might Judas have done what he did, and maybe in a way that we haven't thought about before. If you've read the book, you probably know what I'm talking about. If you haven't, I would recommend checking it out because I think it's an interesting viewpoint on what his motivations might have been and why he did what he did. The other one that I've read is The Crimson Cord by Jill Eileen Smith. And I will be honest, I didn't enjoy that one as much because I had read Wings of the Wind, I think is what it's called, by Connellan Cosette, which is the third book in the Out from Egypt trilogy. And that one, Rahab shows up in the story, but she's not the main character. And I liked what was done with her character in that story more than in The Crimson Cord. In The Crimson Cord, I really felt like Jill Eileen Smith took everything that potentially could happen to women in Jericho and threw them all on her. And then in this book, like I said, we have Martha, and there's a lot we don't know about her life. We don't know about her early life. We only know about her life after Jesus becomes friends with Mary, Martha, and Lazarus. And so it's another case of we're throwing a lot at Martha, I feel like. Not as much as what was done with Rahab, but I still feel like we're throwing a lot at her. And on top of that, there are just some things being done with her and Mary's characters in particular that I feel like we're potentially going to get different people than we get in the Bible. So let me explain, especially if you've read this book. You might disagree with me, but this is the reason for that train of thought. There will be some spoilers for... Right now I'm going to say there will be some spoilers for the first couple of chapters of the book. So if you don't want to be spoiled for anything, I will have an image up here if you would like to mute the video until I'm done, or there will be timestamps down below if you just want to simply skip ahead. But in the very early part of the book, chapter 1, chapter 2, somewhere in there, Martha and Lazarus's mother dies after giving birth to Mary. So Martha loses her mother at a very young age. She's supposed to be 8 years old at the very beginning of the book. Lazarus is 6. I don't know that we know their ages in the Bible, like what their age difference actually is. So the way it's depicted in here, there's 8 years between Martha and Mary, and Lazarus is in the middle. And then I feel like it's probably because of his grief, their father is not overly affectionate or loving towards them, especially towards Lazarus. And Mary is kind of a mischievous, troublemaking child. She's often out playing, she runs away, she doesn't want to do work, so on and so forth. And I feel like this is heading towards the story where Jesus comes to visit and Martha's doing all the work around the house and Mary is just sitting and listening, and Martha gets upset about it. And right now I feel like we're very much in Martha's perspective, that Mary should be helping out with the work, she shouldn't be making trouble, all of those kinds of things. But I just feel like as we get further into the story, we're going to see this when Jesus comes to visit and Mary is, sitting at Jesus's feet and listening, and Martha's getting upset because once again, she's doing work and Mary is not. And, it's almost like the message is going to be all this time, Martha should have lightened up. She should have just had fun. She shouldn't have been upset just because she's working and someone else isn't, or something like that. And I don't feel like what I'm seeing right now is lending itself to the problem that was brought up when Jesus came to visit in the New Testament. That might change as the book goes on, but right now I'm not seeing it. Those are kind of my thoughts on the book right now. It's not a bad story. It's just right now I feel like if this was the story of a random family, a fictional family living in biblical times, I don't think I would have so much of a problem with it. I think my honest problem with it is the fact that it's based on an actual person from the Bible. And because there's so little that we know about their life or their lives, I'm having a hard time getting immersed in the story when I feel like everything I read in here I have to take with a grain of salt. And technically I did with Iscariot too, but for some reason it didn't bother me then. And I don't know why. I don't know why I did with that and it's not with this. Unless it's because I still felt like whatever was in the book could have potentially lined up with who Judas became, and this right now doesn't feel like it is. I'm not sure. But that's where I'm at with that one. I just wanted to give an update before I read any more of the book. So I will give you another update once I get more read of this. But right now, I think I need to get back to the Aeneid and finish it up. So I will talk with you guys later. Hey guys, I am here to wrap up this vlog. It is October 1st, but there was one book I was still in the middle of, and I wanted to get it finished before I filmed this final clip. I'm going to go ahead and talk about both of them, but the first one I finished is The Aeneid by Virgil. It's divided up into 12 books, and I read, I think, the first 4 when I was in college. So that was pretty much all I knew of the story, but there is a lot to this epic poem. We have the Trojan War, we have Aeneas and his men landing on Carthage, Aeneas's relationship with Dido, and then a whole lot of traveling from there, different things that they get to see. We have battles at the end. I will warn, however, that the battles are fairly graphic, a lot more than I was expecting. So if that's something that bothers you, know that before you decide to pick this up. Overall, I really enjoyed the story, but I will say it ends rather abruptly. So there's no wrapping things up. The story just kind of ends. We get to the climax of the story and it just ends. So yeah, I was not really expecting that part. But in general, I really enjoyed it, and I think at some point I would like to pick up the Robert Fagel's translation again, because as I said in, I think, the previous vlog, it is translated into verse, and he does keep with the poetic form. He has a meter, he has the rhyme scheme, all of that, and I really like the way it was written. It wasn't a translation that I could read on a schedule, I guess, especially with not knowing the story beforehand. And then the book that I just finished up this morning is Up From Dust by Heather Kaufman. And again, I really enjoyed the story. I know I had an update earlier where I was talking about some concerns with the book. As far as the concerns that I had, to an extent, I still stand by them. I know a lot of this is fictional because there's just a lot of things we don't know about the lives of Mary, Martha, and Lazarus. She does explain in the author's note why she made some of the choices that she did, and how there were some people mentioned in the Bible that some people argue it's the same person, some people argue it's a different person, and so she took a stance on one of those options and ran with that for her story. There is a blend of both fictional characters and people we actually know from the Bible. I like the ideas that she explored in this book. I liked the things that she discussed. It is a good book, but I still stand by, I don't think I'm generally the biggest fan of reading biblical fiction books that are from the perspective of someone we actually know from the Bible. The next book in this series, though, from what I understand, I think it does follow a historical person, but I don't think it's a person from the Bible. So I will give that one a try, and we'll see what I think of it. This one probably landed around 4 stars for me. It was a good book. I enjoyed my time with it, but there were just a lot of bad things, a lot of loss for Martha and her family in this book. And like, on one hand, I understand it. Grief is a part of life. You know, we all lose people that we love. Different things happen to us. But in some way, it was almost like, but for this much to one family? So that's my overall thought on that one. So in the course of this vlog, I finished 3 books. I finished The Taming of the Shrew by William Shakespeare. And then I also finished The Aeneid by Virgil and Up From Dust by Heather Kaufman. Now, The Taming of the Shrew counted for Shaketember. That was the one play I wanted to get to. And it also ended up counting for the Goblet of Fire prompt in the Back to Hogwarts Readathon because it includes a competition, as there are 3 different men competing for the hand of Bianca. And then the Aeneid counted for the 7th prompt, which was a book with a quest or a journey. Now, Up from Dust was going to count for the 3rd prompt, which was a book with an animal on the cover. Unfortunately, I didn't finish it until October 1st, so I can't count it. So ultimately, I only got 3 of the 7 book prompts done. And the last prompt was for the Cursed Child, and that was to watch a movie adaptation or play a Harry Potter game. And my husband and I did play some Lego Harry Potter, so I can count that one as completed. Somehow we never got to the movies, we never got to the board game, and I don't really know how, but we did at least play the video game, so I got something done for that one. So ultimately I completed 4 of the prompts for Back to Hogwarts. Not as much as I was hoping to get done, but I at least got some of it. And I did at least read 1 play for the Shaketember Readathon. Now, for the Read Your Bookshelf Challenge that Chantel hosts, if you're not familiar, I'm doing both sides of the reading challenge because she has 2 different paths this year. And I completed the Arthur Conan Doyle side in August for September's prompts. And that was to read a book with ciphers or puzzles or that is just a mystery. And for that one, I read The Seaside Corpse by Martha Jocelyn, which is the last book in the Aggie Morton series. However, I did not read a book that fulfilled the Ellen Montgomery side in August. So that one was to read a book, I believe, where music plays a major part, or a book that's a historical fiction. And for this one, I finished The Red Queen by Philippa Gregory. So I do have all of September done. And October's prompt is to read a nonfiction, and I did not finish a nonfiction in September, so I will have to work on that one in October. But I am at least caught up. I'm up to date on the challenge. I believe that's all I have for this vlog. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I don't feel like I have as much footage, but I'm also in the middle of editing the first vlog for September, and that might not be a bad thing because already that vlog for the first vlog for September is really long, and I have no idea how I'm going to cut out enough time because I really don't want it to be more than an hour long, and right now it's sitting at about an hour 40, so I have a lot of editing to do. But hopefully this one won't be quite as long, but we will see. So that is all I have for you guys for today. I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know what books you read in the month of September that you really enjoyed. And if you've read any of the books that I talked about today, let me know what you thought about them in the comments as well. And as always, I hope you're having a wonderful day, and I'll see you later.